Minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Hi there, this is James Valvis coming at you with a new freeform. I don't have anything else for you right at the moment. I do have a review of the C.S. Lewis book that I want to do, a opinion on that, but I'm not prepared to do that yet. I still want to go through the notes that I took on that, and you're talking about 5 essays, and they're important essays, especially a couple of them. The title essay and the Screw Tape Offers a Toast. Those 2 essays are among the best essays that you'll come across in the English language, especially when it comes to the area of theology and that kind of thing. So it's a project. All this stuff takes time, takes effort. I have to go through it and gather my thoughts. I'm not a person who just likes to spout things off too much. When it comes to saying things, especially about other people's work. When it comes to my own thoughts, I can give them to you. I say them. I can adjust them at any time. Sometimes I'll say something that's or it comes out wrong, or it says I didn't say the complete thing that I wanted to say, in which case I'm able to clarify it. But if I'm dealing with somebody else's work, or William Saroyan, or C.S. Lewis, or somebody else, then I want to get that right. I want that to be accurate, and I want that to be as clear as possible, because I think that has a kind of more lasting legacy than something I'm doing like here. This is not just spouting off. It might be interesting to people. I hope it's interesting to people. I wouldn't do it if I didn't think it was interesting. If I didn't think I had valuable things to add to the conversation myself, I wouldn't do this at all. I would find something else. So, I could, my camera struggles aside, I would do far better to just shut all this down, all the poetry, all the commentary, and just start playing video games. You'll get a lot more audience, and you get a lot more traffic, and you'll get a lot more Patreon supporters and everything else. I was thinking about this earlier, about why I have so little traffic, and I really do have very little traffic. When all is said and done, I get 20 views a video about that, and that's not a lot. That is not a lot. That means people aren't even clicking on it. And people aren't even liking it. They don't even, on Facebook, they don't even like it. They don't even give me a mercy like. They don't even pass by and give me the impression that maybe somehow they're it's not even, if I put it, let me put it this way, if I put a picture up of what I ate for dinner, I'll get 20 likes for that. And if I put when I put this up, I'll get 2, maybe 2. So as soon as you ask somebody to spend any kind of time on you, I mean, they can see a picture immediately and then click like. But if you ask them to come here and spend time thinking about, a topic, or just going through, too long, didn't read, that kind of business, it just doesn't happen. The only you have to in some way engage them in a way that is either people are talking about you, or people are, in some ways you're connected. And here's the thing about me too, is I piss everybody off. It's just the way I am. On the one hand, I'll say, I'm completely against abortion, and on the other hand, I'll say I'm completely against the death penalty. Less completely against the death penalty. There are times when the death penalty is not only required, but it should be implemented. There's no doubt in my mind. And then there are times when, even when it's maybe you could show more mercy, it's at least understandable why you would have a death penalty. Abortion is never understandable. But between those 2 things, I mean, just 2 examples of things, you can see how I would piss off just about everybody. I piss people off on the left, piss people off on the right. It doesn't matter. Once you do that, you're going to, somebody on the left is going to say, well, he isn't completely off the Trump train, and somebody on the right is going to say, well, he's not completely on the Trump train, and so you're going to, each one of those are going to fly away, and so you really need somebody who, when they listen to this, that they have an open mind, that there's somebody who is a thoughtful individual. And we do not live in thoughtful individual times, unfortunately. We really don't. This this era is an era that is completely anti-intellectual, and what's scary about it is that the anti-intellectualism is almost especially bad within the intellectual community. You would think that that would be a contradiction in terms. It would be oxymoronic in some ways, anti-intellectual intellectuals. But listen, I post things about freedom of speech on my on Facebook, on Twitter, and other places, and I don't get blowback on that from the right, or I don't, or the right wing people that I'm friends with will click like on something like Bradbury's, a quote by Bradbury on free speech, or a quote by another author on free speech. The people on the left don't do it. Now they used to. Oh God, the condescending, self-righteous, absurd love of Banned Book Week on Facebook. It used to get to me every year, because there are times. Listen, there are times when not banning books, but limiting the access of books to children is the proper thing to do. Look, you don't want to put penthouse letters in a grade school library. There are times when no, second graders should not be introduced to homosexual turtles. They're not able to deal with this stuff in a way that's easy for them to comprehend and to process. So the only reason to do that is to brainwash them. And if you're not into brainwashing children to a certain political ideology, then of course you would be against it. But or if it's somehow vulgar or disgusting, there's no reason to have Captain Underpants in a school library. If kids want to read Captain Underpants they can go buy Captain Underpants. Or if you want your kids to read Captain Underpants, parents can go out and buy that. It does not need to spend taxpayer dollars to put Captain Underpants in a school library. I don't care if you think it makes kids readers. It doesn't matter. That's not a thing that needs to be in that kind of situation. But you would think that these thoughts I'm giving were just, oh my God, you're just the worst. I heard this over and over again. That a disgusting, idiotic, horrible poem by Allen Ginsberg should be put before 9th and 10th graders or even 8th graders and 7th graders, because, well, it's just poetry. It's Ginsberg. And if you don't sign on to that, you hate free speech. But now on the left, now that you are getting some degree of real balance in the media, and it's not even complete balance. Look, all the mainstream stuff is still far left. It's increasingly far left. It's becoming more extremely biased toward the left. And I have to do a whole blog on censorship, and I'll come at some point. But yeah, you're starting to see a little bit of balance. You're starting to see a little bit where, because of independent media and things like this, the alternative ideas are becoming known, and they're becoming, they're being put into the cultural river, so to speak, and the left doesn't like this. So all of a sudden you see a backlash against free speech, and you're seeing it within the major texts, you're seeing it among Democratic politicians, you're seeing it among Democrats in general and the left in general, is where there's been a big retreat from free speech. Even the ACLU has come out and said, well, we don't know if there should be real complete free speech because it could be hurtful to certain communities. You get this garbage all the time, and I just did all that talk on the nation. That whenever they start talking about communities, you better start running with your rights, because they want to take them away from you. But yeah, it's bad. It's bad what's out there and what's going on. I mean, there is a crackdown because they cannot control the way you think anymore. They just can't. The other ideas are out there, and it's not. You don't have to be an intellectual anymore to come into contact with these ideas. You don't have to be like me and you're reading, a lot of C.S. Lewis, you're reading G.K. Chesterton, and you're reading, all the great philosophers. You don't have to be like that. You can come across a Stefan Molyneux. You can come across, somebody like a John C. Wright, or you can come across, even on some cable channels, you might be able to come across some people who think differently, and well. I mean, Tucker Carlson thinks pretty well. I mean, still in the corporate world, so there's a certain level of dishonesty that's always going to go in with that. But at least he's not completely brain dead. And so what you have ultimately is, you don't see this as much. On Banned Book Week, I used to see this guy would like walk around with like books on his head that were banned. And it's always easy to be for free speech when you're on a minority, or when you're approving of speech that you agree with. But when you're talking about speech that you don't agree with, then all of a sudden you start to see that these people were never really for free speech. They were for free speech because they didn't see free speech being a threat to their ideas. But the minute that happened, the minute that all of a sudden their ideas were not ascendant and predominant in the culture, then all of a sudden they want to take away the rights. That's what always happens. It'll happen on the right too. It'll happen any time this happens. Every time there's a paradigm shift, you see the party, the establishment, the party in power begins to retract in its willingness to grant other people rights, and to give to hear the other side, or to let other people hear the side, because they don't have a good argument. They don't. The left does not have good arguments anymore. What they have are insults and proclamations, and that's it. That's it. They do not have a good argument for socialism. There is not one. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. They can dangle free stuff in front of you. They could say you can have a free education, or they could say if you don't agree with us, you hate poor people. But they can't really make an argument for socialism, because everywhere you try it, it fails. Everywhere. So they can't make it. They can't make the argument that it makes sense. It doesn't make sense. I mean, it makes no more sense to have socialism than to say that my daughter can have everything that she wants in that her heart desires and will be just fine. You can't do it. I could not. We would go bankrupt. We would end up on the streets. We would lose everything. So there's the idea that you can just give and give and give and give, and that only because of the rich people in the family, only because my wife, has that big bank account, or I have that savings account that I've been squirreling away, or something like that. Only that, because of that, does my daughter not get, her third PlayStation 4 or whatever. You listen to some of these people, it's like, oh my God, we're doing so poorly. And you look at them, let me tell you something. In life, I have done poorly sometimes in life. Sometimes in life, I really, really was down and out. I was in bad shape. I didn't have anything. I had literally nothing. I was clinging to the very bare minimums of life. And I was starving and hungry, and my clothes were filthy, but I couldn't wash them because I had no money to wash them. I had no way to get the clothes to the laundromat if I could wash them. So I was wearing the same clothes all the time. I was, they were filthy, and I couldn't get a haircut. I couldn't shave because I had no material for that. I was eating like 300-400 calories a day. I had it bad, and so I see these people walking around, and say Occupy Democrat or something, or Occupy Wall Street, and they got their iPhones and their iPads, and they're dressed all nice, and they have signs that they built out of themselves, and they clearly have been in a shower in the past couple of days, and they not all of them, some of them don't shower by choice, but you have all these wealthy people, and they're like, oh, we have it so bad. No, you don't. And even, I'll tell you what, even when I was at my worst, I was still in the United States. The reason I got so bad is because I wouldn't beg. I wouldn't go with my hand out to anybody. That's why I went through all this stuff. I mean, to some degree, I did. I had to, because it was, once you get that low, you have to, you have to call mom and dad and say, listen, I need to come home, or you have to go to a friend and say, listen, I need to crash, or you have to go to do something like that. But when you're in the United States, those options are open to you. When you go to another country, so those options are not open to you. You go to India, and the poorer sections of India, and India is coming out of their extreme poverty to some degree, but it's still in many places, man. If you're a gutter rat in some of these places, it's bad. It's bad. The places where Mother Teresa worked, that's bad. There's not a lot of good going on there. And so when you see these people and they're like, we don't have free health care, well, you know what? Neither did 99% of humanity throughout history. And the only places where they have quote unquote free health care are people who are paying 80-90% of their their check to taxes to the government. And even those people, and it's very small sections of countries that are almost monolithically white and Protestant, and have that Protestant work ethic. And we don't talk about that. Oh, it works so well in Norway. First of all, no, it doesn't. The Norwegian prime minister said, listen, we don't have a socialist economy. I don't know what you're talking about, Bernie Sanders. But even if you thought it did, it is not the same country over there. It's not. Just because it works, quote unquote, works there, doesn't mean it's going to work here. It's not going to work here. So socialism doesn't work, period. But if it did work there would still be specific things. It's like gun control. Oh, gun control works in England. Well, England's an island. It's a small island. It doesn't work there either, because people just get knives and then start stabbing people to death. But, even if you think that it works there, it's still a completely different situation. As the left thinks you can just apply this stuff universally, and it goes, good God. These people are just not, they're not very bright, unfortunately. They're just not. You look at them and it's clearly obvious that they haven't really considered much of anything. Their entire mindset is simplistic. And I think in order to be on the left now, not at all times throughout history, but certainly to be on the left now, you have to basically have a on-off binary way of looking at the world. Republican equals racist, not Republican equals not racist. It's a binary way of looking at the world. Black equals victim, white equals oppressor. That's a binary way of looking at the world. Female equals good, male equals bad. Binary way of looking at the world. No females are ever, mistreat a male. None of them ever, sexually mistreat a male. None of them are ever unkind to a male. None of them ever attack a male physically. I mean, even though we know these things aren't true, we get this kind of BS, binary view of the world from the left. And then you take one look at it. Once you grow up and you become, a thoughtful individual, you look at it and you say, this is garbage. This is just complete garbage. It doesn't hold up to any kind of scrutiny. It doesn't. And the very minute you step back and you start to question it, and you say, is Donald Trump as bad as they say? And you start to look at, did he say that all Mexicans are rapists? No, he didn't say that. Did he mock a disabled reporter? No, he didn't do that. Did he, and you can go right down the list of everything that he did, and he'll be guilty of maybe 10% of it. And even that 10% will look like, well, there was reasons behind it, and then you're stuck with, well, I just don't like him. And that's okay. You don't have to like him, but all your arguments against not liking him are garbage. And, and then it becomes a matter of style. And I've been really paying attention to that too. I've been thinking that the left lately has been all about style. And Obama's birthday just passed, and they were like, "Oh, we really miss the wonderful presidential gravitas that Obama brought to the White House." Well, that's all fine. That's a style issue. He had a certain style as a man and as a president, and then Trump has a different style, and but that doesn't change the fact that you had 1% growth under Obama for 8 years, and you have 4% growth now with Trump. It doesn't change the fact that you had large-scale race riots under Obama that he stoked over and over again. He stoked them by calling a Cambridge cop a racist because he arrested his friend. He stoked it by saying Trayvon Martin, could have been his son. He stoked it by saying the clock boy who built a clock in his school and it looked like a bomb was unfairly targeted because he was a Muslim. You can go on and on like this, where Obama stoked the racial divide over and over again. And so we ended up with riots in Baltimore and other places where basically you had this black American president who was mainly elected by white people, calling all the people who voted for him racist. And they wonder why Trump got elected. It's obvious why Trump got elected, because this guy abused his trust. And yet they loved his gravitas. They loved his respect for the office and all the rest of it. Well, you look at all the stuff. You look at how we're treated in the world, and how basically Iran would just go around and remember when they like pulled over an American boat and made like Navy soldiers kneel, and it's just embarrassing. Look at what happened in Benghazi. And I'm not talking even just about whether or not Hillary should have sent in people to help the ambassador and all the rest of it and let those 4 people die. Forget about all that. Just think for the fact that these people they went into a embassy and they overran it, and we did nothing. So when you look at the substance, when you look at what did Obama do about North Korea? Well, literally nothing. He didn't even really try to do anything. He just, said a couple of things here and there, but otherwise nothing. I mean, they didn't respect him. They don't care about, what was he going to do? He wasn't going to do anything. So, the left has become entirely about style over substance. And, the substance to me, is what matters. I'm at a point in my life where I don't care what the style looks like. I just don't care. I don't pay attention to it. It's one of the things where, if you put your head in the clouds to some degree, if you put your head in the higher echelon of thought, if you're reading Xenophon, or you're reading Epictetus, and you're reading Marcus Aurelius, and you're reading Plato, and you're reading Aristotle, and you're reading John Locke, and you're reading you're the great poets and the great fiction writers, and you're dealing in that level, and you're not watching MSNBC and CNN and even Fox News. And if you're putting your thoughts at that level, then you go and you don't pay attention to the blow by blow style nonsense. It doesn't mean much to you. It doesn't. What matters is when you poke your head up and you look at the culture, and you look at the results of everything. Are we at peace? Do we have prosperity? Is there genuine or general brothership within, and tranquility within the country? Those are the things that you would judge political leadership on. And in every way, for all the resistance garbage that the left keeps trying to do and blame on Trump and say that he's a great divider and all that, for all that, we're better off now than we were under the gravitas and presidential Obama in every way. When's the last time you saw Black Lives Matter people shooting up cops? Or it's not going to happen. They're afraid to. They don't want any part of it, because and also they're not being instigated to do it. They're not being told over and over again how horrible our police officers are. And when was the last time we started a war with somebody just because I mean, really, does anybody really even know why we took out Gaddafi? Really? I mean, he wasn't a great guy. That's obvious. But this, he wasn't even Saddam Hussein bad. He wasn't even, he wasn't anywhere near what, a threat to us like, Kim Jong-un is or something like that. You don't have. There was no reason to go after him except that it was politically expedient for Hillary Clinton. She wanted to go after him so that she would have the military and the foreign affairs chops to go run for president. That was it. It was the whole purpose. Otherwise, they had nothing at all. I cannot to this moment tell you why we did that, why we blew up that regime. I just don't have it. And now that all it did was create lots of refugees that ran into Europe and caused all kinds of problems there, and just complete. And then Benghazi happened, and we had American heroes just dragged through the streets and raped with cattle prods, and somehow this was not their fault for starting a war that didn't need to be started at all, but just because some YouTube video. That's why it wasn't us. It was the YouTube video. Yeah, that's why. So we're gonna frog march this guy for making a YouTube video. Jesus Christmas. So, every day the left seems to lose a little more sanity, and it seems to lose a little more substance, and it looks back on the past, and it looks at Obama's and this is really an indictment on Obama. When they talk about what great style Obama had, it's because they can't point to what great substance he had. They can't do that. They can't say he accomplished this great thing. What did he accomplish? Seriously, he was president for 8 years. What did he accomplish? When you look back on the Obama years and you say, well, he did this, I can only think of one thing that I could say, well, thank you, Obama, you did that. And that he killed bin Laden. And of course, he didn't do that. SEAL Team 6 did that. But, I mean, okay, I'll give you that. At least you sent the guys in. They did their jobs. They took out this doofus. And, okay, fine. Nothing else. There's literally nothing else that you can point to. That is, Obamacare was a disaster. It's still a disaster. Can't even get rid of it. It's still a disaster. He pointed to Supreme Court justices. They're a disaster. They're not going to defend the Constitution. They might as well. You don't even have to. You don't even have to. They don't even have to attend the court. They don't. Just say whatever Ginsburg is voting for, we do too. That's it. That's it. We're just rubber stamping whatever the left wants. That's it. They don't need to be there. They don't even need to read the Constitution. It's just whether it fits the wise Latina ideas, and that's it. Doesn't matter. So, what is his great accomplishment? What did this guy do? I don't know. Couldn't tell you. Could not tell you. Couldn't give you everything that I think he accomplished is bad. Everything. I don't think that we'll have another black president in our lifetime. And it's because he was so bad. I don't think it's because we're racist. I think it's because we had a black president, and everything that he did that was wrong and anybody opposed, they called you a racist for it. You could not oppose a single thing he did without being called a racist. If you were on the left and you opposed him, you were racist. If you were on the right and you opposed him, you're racist. If you're in the middle, you're racist. If you and he used it. He never, now he comes out and he says, we really need to, because he's afraid, because he's a man, right? He's starting to see, it's not just being race anymore, but now it's men. Men are not worthy to have opinions. He's a man, so he don't like that. So he's coming out, well, we gotta be able to speak freely and and do the Obama thing. But it's just garbage. It's just garbage. He is responsible that all the politically correct madness, he didn't start it. He didn't start the fire. What he did was pour gasoline on it. He poured gasoline on it. It is directly related. When he said he was going to fundamentally transform the United States, that's what he meant. So if that's the style you like, if you like the style where everybody is judged by their color of their skin, and judged by their gender, and judged by their their sexuality, and anybody who has an opposing idea should be you know blacklisted, or at least marginalized, if not fired. If you want to completely eat away at the constitutional rights, if you want to be run by an oligarchy of judges and elite politicians, if you want to be, if you want the world to look more like Venezuela than 1950s America, if 1950s America looks to you like the end of civilization, a horror show of conformity and black and white, like they always portray it as, if you see that, if that's what you see in the 1950s, that kind of binary black and white view of that decade, then yeah, you would probably loved Obama, and you loved that style. And yeah, he had a button-down shirt and a tie. That guy was not thoughtful. He wasn't. He rode a wave of racial regret. It's really what made him president. He wasn't qualified to be president. He was the least qualified president we've ever had, I think. I think you might have to go back to maybe John Quincy Adams or somebody like that before you come across somebody who was. He talked about Hillary Clinton being the most qualified candidate to ever run for president, which is a complete joke. It used to make me laugh. I mean, it was so stupid that it made me laugh. You hear this in CNN from time to time too, and often from feminists, where Hillary Clinton was the most qualified person to ever run for president, and yet she lost. It shows you how much people in America hate women. She was not the most qualified person to be president. I mean, well, probably the most scandal-riddled to ever run for president, but not the most qualified. Are you kidding me? I just take Thomas Jefferson. All Thomas Jefferson did was write the Declaration of Independence and have a hand in the Constitution. He founded the University of Virginia. He was one of the most intelligent people of his time. He was ambassador to France. He was incredibly influential in his the Constitution of, I think he did the Constitution of Virginia, which was transferred. Much of it was transferred over to the United States Constitution. JFK once said that, to a group of Nobel laureates, he said, "This is the greatest concentration of intelligence to ever dine at the White House, except for those times when Thomas Jefferson dined alone." He was so much more accomplished as an individual and as a thinker and as even as a politician and diplomat than Hillary Clinton could ever dream of. I mean, what did she accomplish as a senator? Nothing. What did she accomplish as a diplomat? Nothing. And that's just one president. You talk about George Washington, who led the army to victory to found the nation in the first place. You talk about Eisenhower, who won World War II with his military genius. You talk about someone like Teddy Roosevelt, who was it goes on and on like that. Reagan was a governor. He had executive experience that Hillary Clinton didn't have. Plus, he had this long life outside of politics. She never had a long life outside of politics. She never accomplished anything in life. Even Donald Trump's reality show is an accomplishment outside of politics. Hillary Clinton had nothing like that. Nothing. She was even a failure as a lawyer. She didn't do anything. She never accomplished a thing. She was first lady, and then she was elected on the basis of that to an ultra-liberal state as senator, in which she accomplished no important legislation. And then from there, she lost an election to an upstart, and then, just to get, the little support that she had for her presidency. He made her Secretary of State. He gave her that, and then she did, for one term she did that, and she did nothing. She did Russia reset with the button. You know, there's a reason Trump mocked her during the debate for that. The most qualified president ever. It's just a joke. It's laughable. It's funny. The left believes these lies. That because Obama said it, it has to be true. It's just a joke. It's not even a good joke. It's just it makes you laugh, but it's like, God, they can't really believe this, can they? They can't really believe that this incredibly unaccomplished, uninteresting, strident, sourpuss of a woman is not only the equal of a Thomas Jefferson, not only the equal of a Abraham Lincoln, not only the equal of someone like even FDR or JFK, not only the equal of those people, but she's the superior of those people. Probably the only person who was less qualified than Hillary Clinton to be president is Barack Obama himself. There was really absolutely no justification for her to become president as far as accomplishments go. Her accomplishment was being female. That was it. Being a female. There's nothing else. Even the small accomplishments that she has, she could thank her husband for, his political genius. This isn't true of all women, of course. There are many, many, many accomplished women. I mean, Carly Fiorina, who I really quite liked in the debates. I don't care what people say, hate me for it. I don't care. She was much, much, much more qualified to be president than Hillary Clinton. She at least ran a business. She was a CEO of a business that mattered in the world. What did Hillary Clinton ever do except screw up health care when Clinton tried to give her that, and just good God. I don't want to go into this, but the style over substance and the lies, the idea that you need to accomplish, you don't need to accomplish anything. You just have to look good. There's a difference in that. And let me tell you something. This isn't just a problem on the left. It's a problem on the right, too. All the never-Trumpers are the same way. They don't like Trump because they don't like his style. But the style that they liked out of Reagan wouldn't have been any good if Reagan didn't also have substance. I mean, Reagan had a great style. There's no getting around that. He had a better style than Trump, although Trump's funnier. Trump's hysterically funny. If you're not, super uptight because you dislike the guy and you just listen to him, he's hysterical. He just makes you laugh. He's mean, but he's hysterical. But if the right does this all the time. You got to have you not only have to have the right ideas with a Jonah Goldberg or somebody like that, or Bill Kristol, or Jennifer Rubin. I even hate to call her a conservative. She's not a conservative. But these people, if you don't have the right style, then you don't get to be president. But these people thought that George W. Bush had the right style, and yet because he had the right style, he was absolutely decimated by the media. I don't think that you can be Ronald Reagan anymore. And it's sad to say that. I would like to be able to elevate the political discourse like that, but I don't think that the Jim Acostas and the MSNBCs and the Rachel Maddows, I don't think they're going to allow that. I don't think we live in that time anymore. There was no cable news back then. There was no internet back then. You could elevate the discourse because usually there were two kinds of people. There were thoughtful people, and those are the people who voted. And then there were not thoughtful people, and those are the people that stayed home, largely. And so it required, if you got down in the gutter, it looked bad, because thoughtful people were involved. But that's not the case anymore. You have an agitated public. There has been an endless attempt to get stupid people to vote. I mean, you think about all that rock the vote garbage. There's a reason they did that. Let me tell you something. If the vast majority of the people in your political coalition are young or stupid, if that's what's making up your thing, and then you have some, super elite individuals who get to, like, make the decisions and the big bucks, if that's what your coalition is, yeah, you're not. There's something wrong with that coalition. If you're trying to get young people to vote because those are the people who are going to, like, vote for you, it's a problem. Because young people don't know anything. I'm sorry, they don't. We should have never lowered the voting age to 18. That was a huge mistake. It was a huge mistake. Should have left it at 21. In fact, probably should have raised it to 25. Because, listen, we still call college kids, we call them kids. College kids. Why are we calling them kids? Because they think like kids. I'm sorry, they do. These are people who play beat the train. These are people who eat Tide Pods, okay? And yet we're giving them the franchise to decide all our fates. And now some of them deserve it. Some of them are just perfectly fine people who are really thoughtful. Those people exist. But for the most part, nah, get out of here. Talk to them. Talk to somebody who's 20 years old when you're, over 40. And you'll find out they just don't know anything. It's not their fault. It's not their fault. Especially because the culture has dumbed them down, and we've dumbed down our schools. But also because, it's just not enough time. It's like no college graduate. I don't care. I don't have a college degree, but there's no college graduate out there that knows as much as me. Not one. I don't care what school they went to. They could have gone to Harvard and double majored with a 4.0 average, and they might know more about, microbiology than me, but they don't know more than me in general. I just know more than them. I've been around longer. They can't compete with the vast array of material that I've content that I've consumed and that I've digested. They just can't do it. Not in that short of time. I don't care how diligent they are in their studies. It just doesn't exist. There might be one or two people in the world who are able at that age to be as intelligent as me. You think of somebody like Nietzsche, and he was like given a professorship right out of college because he was just absolutely stunningly brilliant. But those people, Jordan Peterson says he was like 1 in a billion, and it's possible. Might even be more than that. Might be 1 in 2 billion. Anyway, this has gone long, and I'm just going to keep talking. You know what? I'm going to keep talking. There are things I want to talk about, and I got time. And if you don't want to listen anymore, you can stop here. Thank you for listening. Please like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Hit the little bell so you get the notices in the future. But if you want to listen, you can keep listening, because I want to keep talking. Let's have fun with it. Nobody's listening anyway. What do we got? 5 people here? 5 people tops? Hey, let's have fun. Let's just go and let's just say everything. Let's put it all out there. Whatever's on the mind today. A little chicken head sticking out there, and we're gonna have fun. Okay. So, what else have I been paying attention to? Wow, I still haven't picked out a new camera. I'll just talk about a little personal stuff here. I haven't picked out a new camera. It scares me. Whenever you start spending hundreds of dollars, and I'm not poor or anything, I can afford it. Thankfully, God blessed my wife and I with a certain amount of financial freedom. It's all due to her. It has nothing to do with me. She's the breadwinner, and without her, I'd probably be in a gutter still. And our 20-year, our anniversary, marriage anniversary is the 12th, and we've been together 20 years, and every day I love her more and more and more, more and more and more and more and more. It's not because she pays the bills and hurt, but it's just she's an incredible person, and just every day I look forward to seeing her. I think, wow, this person has really decided to be the most important person to me, and vice versa. That's an incredible gift. That's crazy. When you think about that, when you think that somebody is dedicated, that you are their person, that's an amazing thing. That's stunning, really. Somebody chose you. Out of all the people in the world, there's 7.5 billion people in the world, and this person chose you. You schmucko, you who are all your problems and all your failings and all your terrible thoughts, and they chose you out of everybody. Think of all those times you picked your nose or something, and they chose you. You know, it's crazy when you think about it, and it's but it's also awesome. It's awesome. And it's a great, you know, it's a great privilege. It's a great honor. I know people out there who, you know, they think of their wives as something like, yeah, well, you know, one of many. You know, not her, somebody else. I just think that's just that somebody has, you know, decided. Because let me tell you, the other direction. I've had that where you know, they did see me as one of many. You know, could have been me, could have been anyone else. I once dated this woman who told me, you know, which I think is even more terrible. She told me, you know, when she thinks of her daughter, that child, well, if she would have had a child with somebody else, that child would have been special too. So, yeah, you know, she doesn't think of that child as overly special. And I thought that was just the worst thing ever. I thought I don't want to have children with this woman. Oh, if I'm gonna have a child with you, man, I want you to think that child, whether or not it's true or not, I want you to think that child is special. I want you to think that child is the thing, the greatest thing of beauty that ever entered into your life. And if you don't think that, man, I'll need to be with you. I really don't. Because really, you know, really, when you think about it, God. You know, I'll probably talk more about this on our so I don't want to go too into it now, but man, you know, it's a real honor. It's an honor to be married to her, and it's an honor, you know, just that she has my name. And you know, a lot of women now, I'm not going to take your name because I'm too important. And I think, well, you know, if that's the way you feel about it, maybe we don't need to be married. You know, if you really feel that way, because it's, you know. I think that, you know, look, there's a reason why men can't offer women much, really. They can offer them, you know, protection. They can offer them strength when they need strength, and they can offer them fidelity, and they can offer them a good name, a name that means something. And if they don't want to take that name, then that's a sign. That's a sign that you are. They don't think much of your name. You know, that's our tradition. If the tradition went the other way and men took women's names, I guess then it would go the other way. But that's not the tradition. Is and there's a reason for that. It's that you know, for the children. And the children say, you know, if a man is going to you know, work himself to death to support the children, a woman's children, you know, he'd like them to have his name, and so there you are. So I did want to talk some about what I'm just like, you know, checking out online, and I'm always going through this stuff, and at some point I do want to talk about this one video that I watched by Mark Dice, in which people talked about embracing incest because they couldn't bring themselves to condemn homosexual marriage. And I don't think I'm going to do that here now. I think I may wait on that. But I do want to get to that, and I want to talk about why our inability to quote unquote judge people has crippled us, absolutely crippled us when it comes to any kind of real morality. The idea that you can't judge is itself the very worst idea, one of the worst ideas that have ever entered the man's mind. Because in order to have any morality at all, you have to judge. You have to. When they misunderstand the scripture of judge not lest ye be judged, which is not that you shouldn't judge, but that you should expect to be held to the same standard by which you judge. So in other words, it doesn't say you shouldn't think that adultery is wrong. It's that you shouldn't think adultery is wrong while you're committing adultery. That's the scripture true meaning. But most people, they don't ever get past that line. They don't ever think deeply enough to understand that. And you see this over and over in culture where we have a meme or a bumper sticker mentality where people just don't understand anything beyond the most surface level of things. And I've been saying that over and over again. There's no depth to people's knowledge. And that's what happens with the young. I say, oh, rock the vote, rock the vote. And the reason they want them to rock the vote is because they have a very surface understanding of everything. They think, free college, yeah, why not free college? Just cut the military. And they don't think that, while you're getting your free college, in will march the Chinese. They don't think that way. They have a very surface understanding of all kinds of things. And often they think that the United States is impervious to that kind of thing. It's impervious to falling. I really think that America will fall at some point. All empires do. All nations do. Eventually, they fall. And the United States will not be any different. I hate to say that because I love this country. At least I've loved the country up until a certain point in time. I think that Obama is the first death knell of the country. I don't think he's the last, and I think Trump is a Band-Aid on a gashing wound. I really do. I think that you think that, oh well, he passed tax reform, so we're going to do better. Nah, that's not going to change the fact that the debt's going through the roof. That's not going to change the fact that the culture has become utterly perverse. It's not going to change the fact that the media has gone off the rails and has now just become completely complicit in its lies and its propaganda. It's become absolutely Orwellian. A word that, another Mark Dice video, a word that people don't even understand the meaning of anymore. Doesn't change the fact that our education system is so dumbed down that people leave high school without knowing who wrote the Constitution or what the First Amendment rights are. They don't even know it. There's something like 4% knew that something like 4% knew that the Fourth Amendment forbid the searches and illegal searches and seizures, something like that. And in the First Amendment, you go down freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of the press, all that stuff. It went down from 60% to something like 5% for the least one. So they don't understand even the very basic fundamental stuff of civics. And if you don't understand the very basic fundamental stuff of physics, well, you're just lost. A country can't survive that. It just can't. It's not going to survive that. So, we have dumbed all this down. We've gone through all this stuff, and ultimately, I see a crash coming. I don't see how the founders were on this from the very beginning. The founders said over and over and over again that you cannot have the kind of government that they were setting up unless you had an educated public and a virtuous public. And the left in this country doesn't want either of that. Oh, they talk the language of education all the time. They're all for, college education, all this. But when it comes to real education, they're not about that at all. They just want the bodies in the class because they get the money from that. But they don't want to teach them there. Not the real stuff. They'll teach them, they'll teach them stuff, America was evil, it had slavery and the rest of it. But they're not going to teach you, that the First Amendment, you have a right to petition the government. I thought the survey said that 4% knew that was a First Amendment right, that you have the right to petition the government over grievances. Only 4% of the American population knew that. Now think about that. 4%. That's not even 1 in 20. What is that, 1 in 25? 1 in 25 people, I'm not very good at math, 1 in 25 people know that there's a right in the First Amendment that says you can petition the government for grievances. That's it. There's only something like 12%, or I forget what the exact percentage was, but that you can peaceably assemble. You don't know that. I mean, the only one I think that was the majority was freedom of speech. That was the only one. And that's under attack all over the place. So, you're talking about, if the left really... Look, the left has been running the education in this country for at least 100 years. And if people are stupid, it's not because of Republicans and conservatives. It's not. It just isn't. You got to own that. It's like you got to own the inner cities and all the crime there and all the problems within the black community. If Democrats have been running these places for 50, 60, 70, 100 years, if you've been doing that and it's all going bad, you own that. It's yours. Now there's I'm sorry if that bothers you. If what I'm saying bothers you, it bothered me when I was a Democrat. But it's just the truth. You own it. It's there. And if you own it, if there's a problem with the way that you do things and think, then shouldn't you change it? Shouldn't you change it? And you can say, oh, it's not the teacher's fault, it's the parents' fault. Well, the parents are Democrats too, first of all. But second of all, who taught the parents? You taught the parents too. The whole idea that we could separate and get out of virtue, we could just throw away these old virtues. Chesterton warned us about this again and again. He said, never tear down a wall until you know why it was put up. And that's all the left has been doing since its inception, is tear down walls. It kind of hates walls. And it sees that as granting ever more and more liberty. But in fact, it doesn't do that. What it grants is more and more prurience, more and more debauchery, more and more liberality, more and more acceptance of bad behavior. But it doesn't make people freer. Not in the classic sense of that term. It makes people less free. And that's true of all sin and all crime. Crime doesn't make people free. Sin doesn't make people free. It imprisons people. The ancients even understood this. They understood it. That's why, in some ways, you can go tyrannical in the other direction and start being really horrible in your punishment of sin. But there's a reason why they did that. It wasn't just because, they were cruel sons of bitches. It was because they understood that if you allowed the beast of sin to run wild, of chaos to run wild, you weren't going to end up freer. You were going to end up less free. You were going to end up without any ability to survive in the world. And when we were much closer to the edge in society, someday I'm going to go into edge theory. I haven't done that yet, but I will talk about the edge. But if you're very close to the edge of the cliff, you can be, you can do stupid stuff if you're far away from the cliff. You can swerve side to side. If you're like Elizabeth Taylor, you can have, marriage after marriage after marriage. You can get married and divorced 8 times. But if you're closer, because she's way away from the cliff, she's still going to be rich. She's still going to be famous. She's still going to have admirers. Even when she's 58 years old, there are still going to be men who want her. But when you get far away from that cliff, or when you get closer to that cliff, when you're not as wealthy, and you're not as successful, and you're not as, and people are not going to want you when you pass childbearing years, and on and on. When you get further and further beyond, closer to that cliff, then you can't swerve side to side and be as nasty as you want to be. Nasty woman. Oh, they love that. We're nasty women. You can't be a nasty woman when you're 38 years old and single, and you got maybe, one more chance of having that child that you want. You just can't be it. No, I mean, you can be it, but then all your dreams become not true. You know, my daughter once said that to me. You make all my dreams not come true. I wouldn't let her watch TV or something. She's like, stomped her little foot and said, "You make all my dreams not come true," and she ran away. It was really funny. So that's, you know, that's the way it's going to be. Then that's the way it's going to be. All your dreams are not going to come true because you're too close to the edge. What you can do at age 18 or 19 or 20, when you can like flick your nose off at the guy who's asking you out on a date, you find at 28, yeah, he's not even coming around anymore. And at 38, the guy that you wouldn't even deign talking to back in high school, he's not going to call either. And so, you know, and if you talk about, you know, I learned this when I was poor and when I was, you know, is that you could pick and choose the job you want when you're not homeless. But once you're homeless, man, they tell you to shovel the crap, you shovel the crap, man. That's what you do. They tell you to get under the dumpster with the maggots, you get under the dumpster with the maggots. That's what you do. Because you know what? It's better than not eating. You know, there's a certain level of that choice that comes with being wealthy, and so, you know, you can, as a society, it's the same way. We've built up this great society where a lot of people seem to have a lot of choice, and society was not, you know, we talk about, oh, the 50s, they were so terrible, but the truth is we built up this great society that was, you know, we defeated Nazism, defeated you know, communism was blocked in. We had the bomb, they didn't, and we were, you know, and then they got the bomb. That was bad. But then, you know, but for the most part, we were relatively a safe and stable place to live. But as you get further and further away from that, you can't keep making the mistakes that you're making. You can't, and because you're going to go over the cliff. You're going to go over the cliff. So it's the same thing with socialism. I always say that socialism is, you know, the problem with socialism is that they never know when to stop. You know, okay, you want a library, that's good, okay, that's fine. So, you know, a library is kind of like socialism. Everybody gets to go in, you get your library card, you show your card, you get it for a couple of weeks, you pay it back, the next person gets it, that's all fine. But you can't have too much socialism because everything gets busted. Everything goes wrong then. You know, it's kind of like, you know, where you take a little bit of poison, and it inoculates you from where you take a little bit of the poison, it acts like a serum against a snake bite or something. But if you drink a lot of that poison, you die. And it's the same with same with socialism, same with anything bad, anything that, it might cure, it might take a little bit off the top. A little bit of drinking, you know, helps you smooth out your day a little bit. You start drinking too much, what happens? You're drunk, and you have all kinds of problems because you're moving closer and closer to the edge. And so, I guess I just explained edge theory to you. So now I'm really cooking. Here we are, already over an hour. She'll take like forever to load. And I'm fine with that. I may not even put, I decided that I'm not going to do a poetry feature until September. So, therefore, I have more time. I have more time to talk and do this kind of thing. And, I may not even put out a poem tomorrow. I don't know. It depends. Maybe I'll put out a poem. I don't. It doesn't really matter. Gotta have so many of them. I've written a lot of poems. Sometimes you look at it and you go, wow, how'd you write so many poems? But, you write a poem a day. It's like how you write anything. You write, or how you talk, or how you do anything. You start cleaning the kitchen one dish at a time. And then, the kitchen is clean. That's how you do anything. So I write a poem this day, and I write a poem the next day, and I write another poem. And then, next thing you know, you got thousands of poems. You've been doing it for 30 years. You get, and you do, a couple hundred poems this year, 300 poems that year, 100 poems this year. And the next thing you know, you got 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 poems. They just exist now. And the real problem isn't writing them. The real problem is getting them out there to the people. Getting people to see them, because it's just It's like this thing. It's like nobody will listen to this. I shouldn't say nobody. There'll be about 3 or 4 people who listen to this. As soon as they see it's over an hour, they're done. And so I'm kind of playing with it now, because I might even go 2 hours. Maybe I'll go 3 hours. Let's talk for 3 hours. See how that goes. Let's have fun with it. But I'll tell you what, for the regular person, maybe nobody. If I go 3 hours, I don't know if I'll go 3 hours. I don't know if I want to do that. But if we go 3 hours, they'll take one look at 3 hours and say, "Oh hell no, I'm not freaking listening to 3 hours of Valvis go off and off and off. I'm just not doing it." Oh. But anyway, to go back to the incest thing, yeah, it's a I want to do a short little clip on it, because I think, I opposed gay marriage on the grounds of how it was being sold. Now, I used to support homosexual unions, or civil unions, and I supported that long before anybody else. In the 80s, I supported that. Back when it was, a fringe idea, just to even give these people the right. Because I'd heard about, AIDS victims not being able, their boyfriends not being able to see each other because the families kept them separate. And I just thought that come on, really? You want to do that? That's the way you want your child's last hours to be power tripping like that? Don't do that. It's just, it's miserable. But, but at the same time, I understood that it wasn't a marriage in the traditional sense of that word. A marriage is about is a religious idea. It's a religious idea. It doesn't exist in a really in a state idea. Not really, because there's just absolutely no there's no reason why a marriage needs to be between a man and a woman civilly. It can be anything, any kind of relationship, civilly. And so I never thought of it as a marriage, and I never thought that it would become such a thing as a marriage. The problem I had with it even being called a marriage and being sold as a marriage is the way it was sold. The way it was the idea that love is love, and that any love is okay just as long as you justify it. And I hated the idea that homosexuals were homosexuals by birth, that they were genetically. There's no scientific evidence that a homosexual is a homosexual because of immutable genetics. There's no evidence for that at all. We have nothing in science that provides that. Nothing. It's just not there. It is completely sociologically, it's a sociological construct. You talk about, these people talk about something that is immutable, like gender. That's a complete sociological construct. But when it comes to homosexuality, well, you're born that way. You have no choice in the matter. And it's just garbage. And all evidence points to it being garbage. We know it's not true. People go into prison perfectly straight. They find out that the best way to stay alive is to be homosexual. They lower their pants, like you see these black boys doing on the corner, or or white boys doing on the corner. That whole gangster cult. They lower their pants, and then they go off with their with the guy who's going to protect them, and that's what they do. And you could say, well, those people are not really homosexuals; they're just doing it to. Well, whether they're doing it for pleasure or they're doing it for profit, what is it? What is the difference? What is the difference? So you have all kinds of problems like that. What that means is you're not able, because love is love, you're not able to differentiate. And if you want to say that homosexuality is the kind of love that we can accept as a society, and that this rises to equality within the variant of normal, okay, you can make that argument. I would argue against it, but you could make that argument. It's at least a rational argument to make. The problem is when you take up the argument that love is love, and that anybody who opposes that particular variant of love, or quote-unquote love, is a hater, then you are left defenseless against any other group claiming that they were born that way and that love is love. And so what you have is, now you can't say that an ancestral relationship is immoral, because love is love. As long as it's quote-unquote two consenting adults. I don't know why that should matter. I don't know why you can't be. And it doesn't to pedophiles. Pedophiles say, my love is love. I was born that way. It's the same argument. They're making the same argument. Love is love. Why do you think that my love is so evil when the homosexual's love is not evil? Or the heterosexual's love is not evil? Or the adulterer's love is not evil? Or the polygamous love is not evil? And on and on. Once you give up the ability to say that there is a line here where we say this is not acceptable form, this is a perverse form of romantic affection. Once you say that line doesn't matter, that doesn't exist, that you were born with wherever that line goes, you're born with that, and that even that doesn't matter because love itself redeems it. Once you make that argument, you can't go back from that. And now, I don't even see how, after Kennedy's ridiculous, idiotic decision at the Supreme Court, I don't see how they can block any form of marriage at all. If a person wants to marry a tree, I don't see why they can't. They want to marry themselves, I don't see why they can't. They want to marry 5 people, I don't see why they can't. If they want to marry their grandmother, I don't see why they can't. Because you can make the same exact argument that you're taking away those people's dignity by not validating their love. And so, our reason has become poisoned. I'll say this over and over again on this channel. Our reason has become poisoned. It's not just that I disagree with homosexuality. Some of my best friends have been homosexuals. I'm a poet. You can't get away from homosexuals if you're a poet. You're going to come into contact with them all the time. The whole art is strewn with homosexuals. It just is. It's like being an actor. If you're going to be an actor, you're going to run into homosexuals. It just is. It just happens to be. And some of them are some of the best people I've ever known. Overall, may not agree with what they do sexually, but that's not the entire value of their person. So yeah, I mean, this, you really can't throw the hate gay thing on me either. I mean, people try this stuff from time to time, and I just laugh on. Come on, you have to make an argument. But if you wanted to make the argument that homosexuality is a special relationship that is itself and itself alone between two consenting adults, is a unique kind of relationship that rises to the level of equality with heterosexual relationships. You wanted to make that argument. It's a tougher argument to make. It's a lot tougher. Because you're not going to be able to say they're born that way, and you're not going to be able to say that love is just love, and all love is good. You're not going to be able to use those two things. It's a tougher argument to make. But if you make that argument, then you don't fall into all this trap where all this other stuff comes into play. You don't have to go down the slippery slope legally. It doesn't have to happen. But that's not what they did. They took the easy road. The left always takes the easiest road to get to where they want to go. And if down the road it means ever greater permissiveness and ever greater debauchery, they don't care. They don't care because they want what they want. They're completely, the right is superego and the left is id. When you understand the psychology behind that, you get it. The left is completely id. They want what they want. That's it. They want it. And since they want it, therefore it is good. Period. Just by wanting it. Just by virtue of wanting it, it's good. They want free education, it's good. They want Medicare for all, it's good. They want, more unions, good. They want a higher minimum wage, facts won't matter to them. Doesn't matter if you tell them you will lose X amount of jobs, or the jobs will move overseas, or the jobs will do this. They don't care. The facts don't matter because they're id. And on the right, you have the other problem. You have super ego, and they just want to clamp down on everything, and that's its own problems in itself. But we live in id times. We are Wizard of Id people, and you are not going to ever convince the id people that the super ego should have their rightful share of the balance of thought, because it's going to get in the way of what they want. Period. I mean, why did they throw such a hissy fit when Trump became president? Because they have become complete id people. They didn't get what they wanted, and so they lashed out angrily, and they denied it, and they said, I don't want this. I was thinking of this one crazy girl where she said, and I'm sorry for the vulgarities. I sometimes curse here, but I curse generally in relation to what other people are doing. But she said, you better fix this shit right now. That's what she screamed this, and she's like couldn't deal with it, could not deal with it, and she really thought that somebody could just go wave a magic wand and overturn an election because it wasn't what she wanted. That kind of thing, when you flip to one side like that, when you flip to one side of the psychology, and id wins out over superego every time, and you never have the balance in the ego, that's bad. It's bad. It's bad for a person. It's bad for society. It's bad. It's like these people never studied psychology or something. They're so unself-aware. And so you don't want this in any regard. And I would think that if we were living in a state where order was its primary boot in the throat problem, I would have problems with the superego, and I'd be talking about that right now. I'd be talking about the balance. All life is the balance, Danielson, all that stuff. I'd be talking about the other side, but it's not the society we live in. We live in a society that is being run simply by I want, mommy. I want. I remember I was in a bakery with my wife and daughter one time, and there was this kid there, and he was with his mother, and he's like, Mommy, I want a cookie. And she's like, no, you can't have the cookie. It's almost time for dinner. You can't have cookie. He's like, Mom, I want the cookie. And she's like, no, I told you, you can't have the cookie. It's almost time for dinner. You can't have the cookie. Moment passes. Mom, give me the cookie. She goes, I told you, you can't have the cookie. You're not having the cookie. Stop asking for the cookie. I want cookie. Cookie. And he starts screaming for the cookie. It's hysterical. But that's it. That's the left today. They want the cookie. And that's it. There's nothing you can say to them. You can't reason with them. You can't say, oh, you know what? Having a cookie right now, not a good idea. It's not going to happen. You can't have that conversation with them. They just lose it. They just absolutely lose it. That's why we're 20 trillion in debt, because they just keep wanting a cookie. And they want to be more in debt. They want to have free health care. They want to have free college. They want to have universal income for everybody. They throw this stuff out. It's I want. And it doesn't matter. And it's just, if you have to get rid of something, you can get rid of these couple of things I don't want, like the military or whatever. Just give me what I want, and we can get rid of this other stuff I don't want. And of course, the stuff that they don't want could never pay for all the stuff they want. They can't pay for the stuff they get now. And so, boy, oh boy. I told you, we can talk for a while. I can talk. My wife says that I talk like, if you put me in the passenger seat of the car, and it's like it's like the seat of truth or something. I just start blah 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 blah. But I'm no different in this chair. It's just once I get going, I get going. What's funny is that I'm not really a talker. I'm not. I don't even think that's a self-deception. I'm not really a talker. I'll go long periods of time, years even, in which I don't really speak to anybody. But you know, I like to listen better. I like to read, and I like to listen to, you know, go to movies and documentaries and study and learn. That's, you know, that's my preferred thing to do. But when I start to, you know, yap, I can do it. And right now we're at almost an hour and 20 minutes, and I wonder how long. Maybe we should do a marathon talk. 24 hours of talk. About 6 hours. We could like break it into parts, you know. So it's possible. Like I got the editing equipment to do that. I'm not going to do it, by the way. I'm probably going to end here in about 10 minutes. But I do want to start doing more shorter freeforms, and just do it like, you know, one 15 minutes at a time, just on one topic. Boom, knock it out, send it out. Boom, knock it out, send it out. I don't have a big audience right now, and I don't think I'm going to have one until I have a better setup here, a better studio. I can do better videos. So I don't think that I'm going to bring in any kind of real audience. I was also thinking about this, and maybe this will be the last thing I talk about, but we'll see. I was wondering why so few audience. Why so little audience for me? Why I'm growing so slowly? I'm literally growing slowly. I'm like one subscriber a week, maybe. And I was wondering why that is. Because I've seen people like start a gaming channel and they have like 300 subscribers by like, you know, they start on Saturday, they got 300 by Tuesday, you know. Or they start a commentary channel and they have you know, steady progression of, you know, maybe not that fast, but maybe it goes you know, on and on like that. And I've begun to think all these places have communities. I was watching a video on how to like advance and grow your channel, and he's like, what you should do is you shouldn't spam people. You should never spam people, but you should go to forums and talk to the people on the forums and leave your links there and make friends and try to help people in there. And I was thinking, well, I'm on Facebook, you know, and I'm on Twitter to some degree, but you know, in poetry forums, and I publish poems all the time, and I think there's two problems here. First of all, poets don't really care about poetry. I've been saying that for some time now. Poets don't care about poetry. The vast majority of poets, they care about their own poetry, but they don't care about poetry in general. But also, there just doesn't seem to be any YouTube poetry community. It doesn't exist. You know, there is a YouTube gaming community. There's a YouTube gaming community for like each system. If you like the Atari 2600, or you like the ColecoVision, or you like the PlayStation 4, or you like a specific game, say you like Call of Duty or something, well, there'll be all these people that you can go to forums and talk to them about Call of Duty and say, well, I got this channel, I played some Call of Duty, you can watch it if you want. Or I'm on Steam, and you can, or I'm on you know, whatever that thing is where you can you know, they can watch you play, and you can come watch me play it. You know, they have all that, like, for, you know, and it's like hundreds, if not thousands, of people paying attention to this one game. You know, you want to play ARMS on the Switch or whatever, which is a really interesting looking game. I don't have a Switch, but it's an interesting looking game. But you want to, if you have that that community, you can go there and you can build up an audience. I mean, when I came up to Brian's Man Cave, which is this retro gamer that I follow, and I like quite a deal. I found him in a forum, a Facebook forum, in which these people were doing just retro stuff, and I saw him. He said, I've done this review of this this game, and you can come look at it if you want. And I went and looked at him, and I started following him from there. Well, you don't have that with poetry. You just don't have it. And I suppose maybe there is Facebook groups, and I can go and spam these and say, listen, these are here's a poem. You can find my poems here. But for the most part, there is no YouTube poets. I looked for them. Edward Field has a few poems that he put out 6 years ago. There's a couple others. There's quite a few stand-up poets from, and then there are some poetry talks. But as far as what I'm doing, it's unique. There's no community at all for it. It's just not out there. It's just not. It doesn't exist. And so it's not. When I first started talking to Brian's Man Cave, he well, not first, but like recently, I said, I'm gonna put on videos of my machine, and I'm really interested in doing it. I was asking him about cameras and what kind of camera he was using, and he said, well, when you get it set up, let me know, and we'll have a live talk. We'll have a back and forth talk about the games. And I was thinking, it'd be really cool. I'm really thankful that he offered that, and I hope that I get the camera and we can do that. But as far as the literary stuff goes, it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist out there. There's nobody I can say, well, let's have a conversation. Let's have a back and forth. Let's have a tete-a-tete. It doesn't, it's just not there. I mean, who do you go to? I don't know. I mean, I've looked. I've done searches on poetry, and it's just nobody doing this. Nobody running commentary. There's no podcast that you can really think of that are consistent. They'll do like a podcast every 2 weeks or something. Oh, that's not gonna work. And then, be honest with you, some of the people are just not interesting enough to pull it off, or they don't have the material to pull it off. Like even to run like 3 poems a week out there or something. Not what I'm doing, but even smaller amount of material. I just can't do it because I just don't have the material. And so I'm out here alone. What I'm doing is utterly unique. It just doesn't exist. It's and in a way that you think, wow, that's original and that's good, and you're one of a kind. But that's not exactly the way it works out. It doesn't work out to your advantage. What they say is you're you don't have a category. You don't have a place I can fit you into my time. So it's ultimately what happens is you're out there all by yourself. You're just you're kind of like floating in space, and there's no community. You think of the Beats. I don't think that the Beats as individual writers become as famous as they did as individual writers. I don't think Jack Kerouac by himself becomes famous. I don't think maybe Ginsberg does, because he was he was banned. Maybe he becomes somewhat famous for Howl. Maybe but I think a lot of those people in those groups, the Black Mountain Poets, and I can go on other groups, they become famous, or they become the collective between them, the interaction between them, the fact that they're connected in some way, they build each other's fame to some degree. People say, oh, I like Ginsberg, so they go to Kerouac. Oh, I like Kerouac, so I go to Patchen. Or, oh, I like Patchen, so they go to William Burroughs. And, oh, I like William Burroughs, so I go to, and on and on. And the problem with what I'm doing here is that there is, oh, I like Valvis, I go on to the next thing. Or, oh, I like poetry, but nobody ever finds me because there's nobody to point them to me. That's why I keep saying to people, listen, start your own channel, do your own thing, join me, let's connect, let's do this stuff, and then on top of it, link me, share this work. If you're not sharing, I'll tell you right now, if I don't get more audience, I'm not going to keep doing this, because it's just I have a talent, and I want to use my time in the most productive way possible. And so there's only so much I'm willing to invest in a failed experiment. So I get it. Look, it's summertime, so there's a certain dwindling of attention to this material, and on top of it, I'm new. I don't expect to have an audience that people who have been doing it for 10 years have it, but I do expect to see some kind of growth out of it. And if 6 months from now, or 4 or 5 or 6 months from now, I'm still getting I still have 21 subscribers, or I have 30 subscribers, or something like that, I just say, well, there's a lot of material there. You can enjoy the old stuff. And I don't say that because, look, I appreciate everybody who listens to my stuff, every single person. And I don't say this to be like, oh, you gotta support me or I'm leaving you real, you wagging my finger at you. I'm just saying that that's as honest as I can be. It's as honest as it's as clear as I can put it out there. You either support the channel or it's gonna go away. It's just that simple. And the best way you could support it is to start your own. Start your own. Let's have a back and forth. Let's have a conversation. I'll link to you. You link to me. All that'd be the best thing we could do. The best thing you can do is to just grab yourself a video pad professional. It's $40. Start reading your poems, or just talking about poetry, or just talking about whatever you want to talk about, and just that's it. You don't even need a camera. I don't have a camera. I mean, I have my iPhone, but you don't even need, you can get a microphone for like, 30, 40, $50. So it's maybe $100 investment total. You'll be spending $100 tops. And you could do exactly what I'm doing here, and it wouldn't be hard. It would not be, it's not hard to do this. I mean, to some degree, you have to have some personality. You can't be a complete, hi, I guess I read a poem earlier today, and it was interesting. You can't be like that. You have to have some degree of intelligence and, something that draws people to you. You have to have something that is, it makes people stand up and says, this is worth my time. You have to be thoughtful in some way, and you have to be able to speak and articulate ideas without being a complete and total lunatic. I don't even know. Take that back. You can be a complete and total lunatic. You just can't be boring. There are lots of people who are complete and total lunatics who have much larger followings than I'll ever have on Facebook. Look at the Young Turks. I'll never hit those numbers, and yet just about all of them are just complete bananas. So, yeah. Anyway, God, there's so much we could talk about. It's even here at an hour and a half, I don't feel like I've run out of stuff. God, I love life. I find everything interesting. Even as I near my 5th decade, I just find everything interesting. It's one of the reasons I don't want to die. It's besides the fear of the unknown. It's and the off-putting idea of my body being there where I can't control it. Beyond all that, God, there's just so much to learn and discover and do and be and learn about. God, I love learning. I love learning anything new. I was just reading stuff on the Rifleman TV show, which me and my wife watched the whole series. We loved it. It's a great show. It's a very wonderful show that fits all the Tolstoy definition of art. And it's just we used to laugh about about the large numbers of people that Lucas McCain killed. I mean, he killed like this many people, a goat, a chicken, and a horse, and another rifle. With that rifle was like a one-gun disaster for that county. It was still a small town when the series ended 5 years later, but because Lucas McCain would kill just about everybody who walked in. But oh God, what a great it's just even reading about the show and reading what happened with those people when they were making it, and what happened to them after they made it. And it's a silly thing, but I love learning about it. I love learning about everything. There's never a time where I'm not excited to learn something new. And I only wish I could learn more. I'm not the brightest guy in the world, and so it takes me, in some ways it's good not to be too bright, because I imagine for bright people who learn things, they kind of retain it, and then they, things start to bore them because they're so bright. But me, I just kind of forget, and then I learn it again. The world is always fresh and new oh, man. Well, here we are, in an hour and 34 minutes, and I think that's enough. Don't you? I mean, that's enough. But I've talked about a lot of stuff here. I don't know if any of it was any good. I don't know if I'll use any of it. I don't even know if I'll listen to this one again. I usually re-listen to my episodes because I want to see what I said, make sure I didn't say anything too dumb, and also to try to improve the way I'm speaking, not repeat words or come into too many of the knows and the uhs and that kind of thing where I'm not speaking with the clarity that I want to speak with. But there's only so much you can do with that. You speak as you speak, and at 50 it's not going to change too much. But I don't even know if I'll re-listen to this. But I do think that I said a couple of things here that are interesting. Certainly edge theory is going to come back. We'll talk about that again, and a few other things. And anyway, I do thank you for listening. This is enough. Go do something else. But I do appreciate you listening. If you listen all the way through this, God bless you. You're awesome. You're my number one fan. You can come and tie me to a bed or something, and I really appreciate it. And anyway, thank you. God bless. See you later.